Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Brexit has added more than £200 to household food bills, contributing to record price inflation. That's according to research from the Centre for Economic Performance at the London School of Economics, which has calculated an average £210 increase in food prices for British consumers between 2019 and 2021. That amounts to a total hit of £5.8 billion for consumers, with the poorest being hardest hit. The study quantifies the impact that regulatory barriers have had on food imports from the trading bloc. Whilst there are no formal tariffs on food imports under the EU-UK trade deal, companies face non-tariff barriers such as sanitary rules on fresh meat, and businesses have passed on the cost to customers. You may be old enough to remember Boris Johnson selling his oven-ready Brexit deal to the public on the basis of this.
And there'll be no non-tariff barriers to trade.
It was, of course, complete bollocks.
About all those small businesses that are reaching out and trying to trade with the EU at the moment and are finding they are being throttled day by new red tape. Whether it's musicians, cheese makers, you're a cheese fiend yourself. Cheese makers are very, very upset. The Cheshire Cheese Company, for instance, says that they are going to be destroyed by non-tariff barriers, where we're talking about fishermen, we're talking about farmers. Right across the British economy, we're seeing lots and lots of small businesses dealing with the reality of Brexit trade regulations and finding themselves on the edge of going under. What do you say to those people?
Well, we've always been clear that trading as a third-party country would involve processes.
She obviously missed the bit where the then Prime Minister promised the public this.
There'll be no non-tariff barriers to trade.
This is what Johnson's oven-ready deal actually delivered.
The truth is that Boris Johnson promised the deal that you signed would, and I quote, if anything, allow our companies and our exporters to do even more business with our European friends. And the truth is that because of all sorts of new paperwork, there are now 20-page export health certificates for vets, there's 27-page catch certificates for exporting fish, there's duties for goods of all kinds which don't meet rules of origin requirements. And if that is going to make trading with business with Europe harder and harder and harder.
In fact, 6 years on from the UK's decision to leave the European Union, Brexit is still proving the biggest headache for British businesses, ranking even higher than Russia's war in Ukraine, COVID or rising energy costs. And now consumers are paying the price. This is what Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, told the Treasury Committee on November 16th, just the day before the Chancellor delivered his autumn statement.
So there is an effect. That's what I'm saying, yes, there is an effect.
The Bank of England Governor explained the impact of Brexit in this way.
I think the bank's assessment, and we use this in the forecasts on the Brexit impact, really hasn't changed. It essentially assumes that there is a long run downshift in the level of productivity, I think of around, it's a bit over 3%, and that at least two of those comes sort of, fairly well forward in the time frame. And I think it's fair to say, I don't think anything we've seen so far changes our view on that.
Mr. Bailey was not the only one to give evidence.
The simple way of thinking about what Brexit's done to the economy is that in the period that happened after the referendum, there was the very, very sort of powerful, the biggest appreciation that any of the world's four major economies have seen overnight, that contributed to increasing prices, reduced wages, and I'm not talking simply through real wages, but also through nominal wages. About 6% of inflation in food prices. 6% is the number which is higher than the rest of the world, as a result of the Brexit impact.
And who could forget this gem?
We could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away by getting rid of the protectionist anti-trade tariffs that the EU imposes.
When are they going to be held accountable for this?